Late at night in a university building, security guard Jill discreetly enters a laboratory where the camera's off, thanks to a friend's favor. Jill then steals expired medication from the medicine cabinet. The next day, she sells the medication to Greg, who pays her less than they agreed upon. Afterward, Jill goes to her mother-in-law Doris's house to pick up her children, Matilda and Noah. Doris reminds her to bring the children back early, revealing that Jill doesn't have custody. During the car ride, Jill tries to bond with her children by asking them questions. Matilda responds cheerfully, but Noah isn't very talkative. When the car radio stops working, another vehicle loses control on the street, and Jill has to swerve. However, a second car appears and crashes into hers, sending them rolling down a hill and into a lake. The water begins to flood the car, as Jill tells her children to unbuckle their seatbelts to escape through the window. As she tries to get out, the water pressure pushes her down, making it difficult to swim. Fortunately, she manages to surface and finds Noah. Matilda, however, is on the shore, being resuscitated by two police officers. They inform her that there's a citywide power outage and advise Jill to go to the hospital because she has a nasty cut on her forehead. At the hospital, the family is surprised to see many injured people. Some men speculate that it was a terrorist attack, as a normal blackout wouldn't affect cars. Since Jill's injuries are minor, doctors prioritize more severe cases, and she ends up healing the wound herself. A woman begins to shout about a miracle. Jill rushes to the room and discovers that all the coma patients have woken up. Later, they return to Doris's house, who informs them that the phones aren't working and stores aren't accepting credit cards. Unfortunately, all of Jill's money was left in the lake. Given the situation, Doris allows her to stay the night. In the early morning, Jill can't sleep and goes to the living room to look at photos of her children and her deceased husband. Doris joins her, also unable to sleep, and they talk about sleeping pills. Jill says she doesn't take them because she's recovering from her addiction, and Doris states they don't help. While checking on Matilda sleeping, Jill finds Noah awake. They observe shooting stars but realize they are satellites. On her way to work, Jill notices that no one can sleep in the city, so everyone tries to distract themselves by walking the streets. She meets Greg, who wants to buy more medication and is willing to pay double. Everyone is consuming something to deal with insomnia, and he's desperate to sell, so Jill tells him she'll see what she can get. Upon arriving at the university, Jill realizes the place is empty in the morning. After her shift, she enters the laboratory to steal more expired medication, but she's surrounded by armed soldiers. Jill identifies herself as ex-military to make them back off. Dr. Murphy appears and is disappointed to see her stealing, refusing to listen to her apologies. Murphy's team and the soldiers explain that they are setting up a research center because no one has been able to sleep since the blackout. Murphy invites Jill to join them, but she refuses. Before leaving, Murphy gives Brian the center's address. She asks him to take the family there. Brian tells Jill she should have accepted and explains the effects of insomnia. Soon she'll suffer hallucinations, motor failure, and finally cardiac arrest. Only one woman has managed to sleep and is being studied at the center to understand why. Jill mentions that Matilda was sleeping when she left, and Brian asks if she could be dead. Worried, Jill rushes back to Doris's house but only finds Noah, who tells her that Doris took Matilda to church. Jill gathers some things and says they'll go look for her sister. However, as they are leaving, they are stopped by Brian, who also wants to take Matilda to the research center, but Jill refuses. She and Noah walk through the city while Brian follows them. People are losing their minds and becoming violent, destroying things and fighting. They find a body behind a dumpster, and Jill is surprised to see it's the sheriff. When Noah asks what's happening, Jill explains that sleep deprivation destroys the human mind. Meanwhile, Doris introduces Matilda to the pastor, who encourages her to sleep to become a symbol of hope. When Matilda falls asleep, the pastor announces to the faithful that they have a miracle and that this energy will spread. However, upon waking, when Doris tries to take her away, people demand that she also help them sleep, even considering sacrificing her like Jesus to save them. The pastor tries to calm everyone, but when Jill, Noah, and Brian arrive, a police officer prepares to shoot, and the pastor orders everyone to sit down. Jill wants to take Matilda, but the crowd objects, and a woman remembers that the girl's custody legally belongs to Doris. As tension rises, Brian warns that lack of sleep is affecting their personalities and mentions the research center, promising that scientists can solve everything. The pastor, however, refuses to let Matilda go, saying she would be used as a guinea pig. Brian threatens to return with the army, and then the police officer shoots him. In the midst of the panic, Doris flees with Matilda through the back door, while the crowd begins to search for them in the other rooms of the church. Doris pretends that Matilda has disappeared after telling Noah to meet her in the woods. Jill finds her daughter hiding upstairs. They have to walk very carefully as the police officer is threatening to shoot the pastor if he doesn't hand over the girl. In the chapel, Noah is still in shock from Brian's body. He checks his pocket and finds the address of the research center. Suddenly, he hears gunshots and screams, so he runs to the woods to reunite with his family. They run as fast as they can until they manage to hide in a parking lot. Noah says they should take Matilda to the center to find a cure, and Jill refuses again, but changes her mind when Noah points out that if everyone dies, Matilda will be left alone in the world. They need a car to move safely, so Jill goes to Greg's garage but finds him bleeding on the ground. He was shot by 2 assailants who hear Jill make a noise. She hides, and the men believe it was Greg who made the noise, so one of them repeatedly stomps on his head to finish him off. As Jill moves carefully and grabs a screwdriver to protect herself, the men steal a car and finally leave. Jill looks at all the keys on the table and also chooses a car. She picks up her children and they leave. During the trip, Matilda falls asleep. At night, they find the dead assailants on the road and the stolen car crashed. Jill realizes that they stole the sheriff's badge and gun, which means they killed him. She picks up both objects and returns to the car. Later, during a break, Jill tells Noah that the assailants were killed by Murphy's staff. Murphy works as a psychiatrist in the army, and during the war, she used unethical methods to torture and kill, including sleep deprivation. It was Murphy who helped Jill get a job after she was expelled for her addiction. Noah understands his mother's concerns, but still wants to take Matilda to the center. The next day, they find several naked people blocking the road. People step aside to let them pass and watch Matilda in the back seat. Moments later, they arrive at an empty city and stop at the library to look for a map. Jill is clearly on the verge of a nervous breakdown and tells a crying Matilda that she needs to learn to survive in this new world. Then she tries to teach the girl how to fire a gun. Matilda refuses, and he ends up shooting some books to vent his frustration. After sending Matilda to the car, Noah and Jill look at the map for the center. At that moment, several prisoners escape from jail and begin to roam the city. Jill sees them through the window and rushes out, but someone has already taken her car with Matilda sleeping in the back seat. A group of men tries to take Noah, so Jill shoots the ground to scare them away. Unfortunately, that was her last bullet, and they prepare to flee, but the car returns, and Dodge tells them to get in. Upon leaving the city, Jill keeps the gun pointed at Dodge and tries to interrogate him. They get distracted and almost crash, but Noah alerts them in time. Dodge brakes sharply and takes the opportunity to take the gun from Jill, who reveals there are no more bullets. Then Dodge takes the keys and goes to investigate a burning farm. He finds new clothes and puts them on, while Noah tells him they are trying to find a cure. Meanwhile, Jill teaches Matilda how to siphon gasoline from other vehicles. When Dodge returns, he returns the gun to Jill and agrees to take them to the center because he also wants a cure. At night, Jill puts Matilda in the driver's seat to teach her to drive. However, they have to stop when they find the road blocked by a pyramid of garbage with a man sitting on top. Near the trees, a group of savages has captured people and hung them upside down to extract blood. A terrified Jill takes the wheel and tries to get out, but the car crashes into the pyramid, and the savages begin to break the windows. As Jill tries to drive around the garbage pile, the savages stick their arms in, and the family has to fight to keep them out. When a woman grabs Matilda by the hair, Noah stabs her arm with the screwdriver until she lets go. Some people manage to hold Jill and almost pull her out of the car, but at that moment, Matilda steps on the accelerator and they finally manage to escape. A few hours later, the group spots the lights of the research center in the woods. The family gets out of the car and says goodbye to Dodge, who leaves alone in the vehicle. There's an old cabin near the road, so Jill tells the children to wait there while she checks the center to make sure it's safe. After stopping at a river to refresh herself, Jill approaches the center and notices the soldiers giving themselves injections to maintain sanity. She waits for a truck to cross the bridge to pass underneath unseen and finds some bullets on the stairs. When the guards turn around, Jill manages to infiltrate and uses the same university password to enter the laboratory. She puts on a lab coat to avoid being discovered. In the next room, she finds the woman who can sleep, and the other doctor believes she is there to collect blood samples. Jill begins to do so while noticing the wound on the woman's arm, indicating that she has been pricked dozens of times. The woman complains, and Jill promises to help her, but also asks her to take care of Matilda if everyone dies. The confused woman says she doesn't know why she can sleep, as she should have died months ago. At that moment, Murphy finds Jill and asks her about Brian and her family. Jill pretends she hasn't seen Brian since he left the university. Murphy explains that they don't have a cure yet, but she has created a cocktail that helps with mental clarity, the same injection the soldiers were taking. However, this cocktail has been causing some neurological damage. With a hug, Murphy tells Jill that she's happy she came to help, but also seems to be losing hope. Later, Jill leaves the building and sits on the steps crying, thinking that humanity has reached its end. Suddenly, she sees flares in the sky, and Dodge appears in the car with Matilda and Noah. Jill tries to run to them, but a soldier immediately captures her. All the guards prepare to shoot until Matilda says she can sleep. In the morning, Dr. Murphy and Katz tell Matilda that she will help people with the experiments. Matilda sees a monkey with its head open, still alive. She holds its hand while Katz tries to put it to sleep with anesthesia, but nothing happens. They want to compare Matilda's brain activity with the monkey's, so they test the anesthesia on her, and she falls asleep instantly. Then Murphy goes to see Jill, who is tied up and beginning to feel dizzy from insomnia. Murphy says that sleep deprivation was probably caused by a solar flare that affected the brain's magnetism. Jill implores for her daughter's freedom, but Murphy states that humanity's survival depends on the girl. Meanwhile, the soldiers discover that Dodge is an electrician and give him an injection of the cocktail. In the laboratory, Matilda realizes that the sleeping woman has stopped breathing. Katz uses the defibrillator but can't save her, and the woman dies. Murphy then sends for Noah to compare his brain activity with Matilda's. Jill begins to hallucinate. Noah appears and accuses her of relying on others to raise her children before starting to strangle her. He also pulls out a knife, but at that moment, a soldier enters the room and takes the real Noah, ending the hallucination. Jill's pleas for her son's life are ignored. Outside, a guard mistakes a pineapple for a grenade and opens fire randomly. The sound of gunshots causes other soldiers to go crazy and start shooting at scientists and armed colleagues. A woman sees Jill and thinks she's her ex, so she shoots her before giving up. Luckily, the first shot misses and hits a pipe, allowing Jill to break it and free herself. The soldier carrying Noah also loses his mind and almost kills him, but Dodge stops him in time. When the man realizes what he almost did, he has another breakdown and attacks Dodge to kill him while Noah begins to crawl away. Jill sneaks through the chaos and is stopped by a soldier at the door, but he is shot down by a colleague. In the laboratory, Katz gives Murphy the cocktail while saying that they are sacrificing a girl for no reason. When Jill enters, Murphy states that she can't let her take the girl and threatens her with a scalpel. Suddenly, Murphy begins to feel unwell and in a few seconds falls dead. It is discovered that Katz purposely left a bubble in the syringe to kill her. Jill frees Matilda, and the two run to find Noah, but have to hide when more soldiers appear, shooting at each other. They finally find Noah, who is touching some wires while hallucinating that he is a fish. Suddenly, he gets an electric shock, and Matilda runs for the defibrillator, dodging the bodies of the soldiers on the floor. When she and Jill use the device on Noah, they also get shocked and pass out. In the morning, Matilda wakes up and sees her mother hugging Noah's body. She cries while shaking him until he opens his eyes, which means he fell asleep. A guard appears behind them with a gun, but after hesitating, he lets them go. Next, the family prepares to leave in a military car. Noah tells Jill that she was right not to want to go there and admits that she really cares about her children. Meanwhile, Matilda observes the defibrillator and has an idea. Noah's heart stopped, he died, and came back to life with the shock, so he was able to sleep again. She believes she died in the lake and the police resuscitated her, which is why she could sleep. Matilda concludes that to end the insomnia, their lives need to be reset. As Jill is almost out of strength to continue, the children take her to the lake and push her into the water until she dies. Then they perform CPR and bring her back to life.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.